It's Tuesday, May the 28th, 2013, live from rural Pickens, South Carolina, Technology Show Studios. Hello, friends. I'm Matthew T.G.
Very good.
I am Heath Mullican.
And boogity, I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between.
Oh, my.
This is episode 204.
204.
Yes. And we did, and you know what in our first or our second take on the show,
You know what?
we gave a shout out to my dad.
Well, I
Happy
was just
birthday,
going to
Dad.
say, I was going
birthday.
to be like, isn't it your dad's birthday?
Gonna make it sound like you really cared,
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
I remember these things. All right, so we had Dr. Rosaria Butterfield on the show last week,
Yes.
and we're giving away 2 copies of her book, the Secret Thoughts of an Unlikely Convert, and we do have our winners, and we're going to let you, our winner, decide what format you want that book in, except for Braille. We are not offering that in Braille.
Sorry for our blind viewers. There is an audiobook, though, maybe. Is there an audiobook?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, I don't know.
Ooh.
No.
Are we giving an audiobook as an option?
If you're deaf right now, none of this really pertains to you.
The last I checked, it was not, if you had the Kindle Fire HD, then you can have it read to you, but yeah.
Not like a professional recording.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
Kindle or a paperback. That's what we're offering.
And before we announce those winners, if you didn't see that episode and you're watching this one now, please take the time to go back a week and check out episode 203.
Great.
Fantastic
Great.
interview.
It was awesome interview.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk. Let's announce our winners.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Is that me? I thought. Oh, okay. Well, this is going from memory.
Oh, no, I got
There you go.
I
All
got
right.
them.
Thank
Come
you,
on,
Heath.
Winner number 1.
Okay.
I think they're both in the chat room. I know one of them is in the chat room. Priscilla Hammond.
All right, Priscilla, let us know.
Priscilla, thank you.
Kindle
You're a
or
winner.
paperback?
You can actually let us know in the chat room if you're there. And then also,
Oh yeah.
Guess
no
who?
surprise
Guess
here.
who?
Oh yeah.
the Duke Blue Devil himself, Seth Cotton, has won yet again. And so, Seth, let us know. We do have your address on file now.
Now
We don't-
he moved. I thought he moved.
He did.
So
we
I don't have his new-
We
I
do
don't
not have
We
your
finally
address.
got it on file, and then he moved. Yes.
We finally, when we set up an account that was hardlined right
That's
to his
right.
house.
But you're the secondary address for our Amazon account now. So, well, that's all. So, did you guys have a good Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah.
Did grilled some steaks last night. We didn't really do anything special. I mean, I spent my day behind the computer, but yeah, we grilled out last night.
Well, you guys heard, Tony did the boogity, and
messed it
that
up.
was the third intro. I did it in the second intro because I got to go to the Coca-Cola 600 Sunday night. and
What time
was
did that
amazing.
race get done, man?
I think it was after midnight.
Yeah.
The race started at 6:30. It was after midnight.
Are you the one responsible for the cable thing? Come on, man. Be honest. The cable came down on the
I
track.
thought I had a picture of it because we had literally just walked outside. We were in a suite. We were blessed with great time, but we had just gone outside, and I had taken a picture of the camera, and when we walked back in, it had fallen, or the wires had fallen. It was
Did a camera
crazy.
fall or just cabling?
No, the camera was attached to 4 cables.
Okay.
And like when we first got there, I saw it go. I couldn't see the cables. I was like, "Are they flying a drone?" And I was quite worried.
It's like what they use in a football stadium, right? For that one.
Yes.
that
Must
moves
be,
around
yeah.
there.
They won't be using it at NASCAR again anytime soon. It was a disaster. I mean, it was. It's already the longest race of the season. There were 11 cautions, 2 red flags, but it was a lot of fun. But it was so weird. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big NASCAR fan. We got to go down to the pits. Yeah, it was good. I had a lot of fun.
Real quick, here's something just really interesting. So you guys know that I love antiques. The studio kind of shows that. So you're always saying, well, what someday will be, an antique worth
I think
collecting?
we asked that question once. I think I asked you that question one time.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think now?
Yeah.
will be an antique one day.
So here we go. Here we have the current generation of the Kindle Reader, and that is the keyboard. Well, here I've acquired a first generation Kindle, and it just can't. I mean, it can't do it justice. You kind of get a feel for right there, and the keyboard on this thing. Again, it's hard to see.
And you can just see it just changed pages accidentally.
Because when this first came out, it was like about $450.
I can't remember.
And this is like expensive. 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
You can get these on eBay now for probably $35-$40 plus shipping.
Yeah.
Keyboard is really, it's really wild. On the reviews of this originally, one of the negatives was, they said you inadvertently can turn pages. Well, you can. It easily,
you can fly through a book. You can read a whole book in no time at all. Just you're powered through it.
Yeah.
Speed reading. Yeah. It's a feature.
So, and the memory on it, very little memory, but the back slides off. There's an SD card slot. So you can put the SD card in there, and that's where you basically would store your books, is on the SD card slide.
It's fascinating. I remember some of the reviews of it. I remember being fascinated by it. I remember I was listening to the announcement. This was the first thing that Amazon had ever produced that was their own thing.
Yeah.
There'd never been an Amazon product before this.
Yeah.
I remember listening to it and being quite impressed by it at the time. For an e-reader, for an e-ink display, what it was really amazing. But I remember then the reviews that came after that, and people saying this is almost as if it is like a beta product, or as it still should be in the labs a little bit longer. And once you then play with the next series of those, you see that really was a beta product that still should have spent a little bit more time in the lab to get to where it is right now. Yeah.
But this started a revolution. It really done. Now look at where we are with e-readers and electronic
books.
books.
You couldn't get. It was so hard to find a place to buy an e-book of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I tend to, if I'm buying a book online, without exception, if it's on Kindle, I buy the Kindle. But I love going to bookstores. Like if we go to a thrift store, I go to the book session. My wife will tell you, I am addicted to
this year.
I don't read books, I just buy them.
The last year, this was the turning point for me. So now my preferred method of buying a book is Kindle. That's the first thing I look. Do I have it? And all that is because of being able to highlight, to add notes, and then just copy and paste those as you need it.
Yeah, I wish that we could be in a day in which you bought the print book and you got the Kindle book subsidized or something. Yeah. Because that's the only thing. Like, what happens, Tony, when you're gone? Where does your Kindle library go? Think about. I just inherited over the past.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
it really is.
over the past week. Well, it was last weekend. It took 2 weekends ago. Sorry, we went to my sister-in-law's wedding. And while we were there, I got a chance to go and spend the morning with my parents. And I inherited a family Bible from the 1870s that nobody really knew was even in the family. It kind of turned up, and somehow my uncles didn't.
We traced it. 6 generations back?
Yeah, it's 6 generations back that this goes to a guy I didn't even know. I had a great grandfather who was a pastor, and it was his family's thing.
Wow.
How do you pass on? How do 3 generations from now?
Here we are.
Yeah.
This was great-great-grandpa Casey's Kindle.
No, the other one was great.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah. All his notes and stuff. Don't lose the SD card.
Yeah. Now, what do you do? It's a legitimate question. What do you do with your library? That's the only downside to this is I've inherited not just that, but I remember previous when my grandfather was downsizing his library, the majority, 60% of the books that I have are my grandfather's.
Yeah.
And there is a charge when you get I have Jackie got for me, my mother-in-law got for me Adam Clark's New Testament commentary, first printing. It's in a 2-volume set. First printing. Wow. And there's kind of a charge for those of us, or preachers, you get these. And you're right. So I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, now you're rethinking your whole strategy.
Now it's the same deal with all digital products. I know Bruce Willis was going through a deal. I don't think it was a lawsuit, but Bruce Willis kind of realized, hey, I haven't read the iTunes, terms of service. Well, when you die, you cannot pass your stuff on. So I'm trying to. I'm just kind of thinking about all that.
Your account is closed, and all your purchases and stuff are,
I don't understand how you can't just let your.
So I didn't think about that. So if you got into the terms of services with Kindle books, what if that's the same thing? So I mean, all those notes, all your highlights, those are just gone forever. Yeah. What a loss for my family.
One of the fascinating things is when you go to, like, Dr. Mitchell had the privilege of going to his library after he passed away, and his wife let me pick out a couple of his books. And one of the fun treasure hunts for my grandfather's books and for this is to go through and see where the notes and the highlights are and see what was important as they were reading through it. Very interesting. It causes a dilemma because the convenience and the technology is great, and I want it, but I want, like, there's times when you kind of want to, especially in a really good book, you want to have that hard copy of stuff to be passed around, to be passed down. And if you could get it, if you knew that when you bought like right now on Amazon, a lot of music, if you buy the CD, they have a thing called auto rip that puts it into your digital category. So now you've got the physical CD, but they've also, I actually bought 4 discs that way. And they license that out with the music people. And it was actually the same price. It would cost the same price to buy the CD, have it mailed to me, as it was to buy the all MP3 track. But what happened was when I got the physical CD, they just moved the digital files over into my collection of digital music.
That's nice, because they had the physical copy, and they've already ripped
Right. They didn't actually take that physical CD and rip it, but they had those files on file.
Right.
If that could happen with this, that's what I want to get to. That's the next step. We've taken a great step, and they're available now, but the next step is...
I will say for me, like, with the extended weekend, we got away, and I went offline. So I had books, and I had a pen, and I'm writing in my books, and I'm taking notes.
That's crazy.
And there was just something about that. Like when I'm reading a Kindle book, I'll highlight, but I don't put notes in it. Like there's just something for me, and I miss that.
It's a little harder. I agree.
Like I read 3 books this weekend, and just took a ton of notes on them, but
But then when you go back to reference those things, you want the to be able to type something out and say, where was this, and pull that out.
Right.
Like when you're right. The actual reading experience and the highlighting and marking up may be better still in a physical book, but when you go back to look up what you've done, it's so laborious to where was that? What page was this on?
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work to keep all that indexed. So it's this stupid, weird game you have to play. Yeah.
And just imagine what they did with scrolls when you had a scroll.
And so here's what's happened to me. I end up buying 2 formats a lot of times. I will buy the audio and I will buy the Kindle. Because
and now you're going to buy 3 after this conversation.
When I'm jogging, I'll hit the bookmark, and then I'll come home and I'll highlight that in the Kindle version. And I just did that where I took those highlights then and pasted them into a file where I needed it. So, all right, hey, listen, let's talk about Theologian Trading Cards by Zondervan. They have been really great. Emily Varner at
kudos.
At Zondervan said that they would give away 3 sets of these.
Yes.
And I don't know. It's hard for you to see here, but to Heath's right, maybe give it a studio shot here, Matthew.
There's like
you have all kinds, man.
There we are. This is probably 75% of the cards. I mean, and they're each wrapped in, and they've got different categories of people. So they're really by.
Well, here we'll show you. All right, so Matthew, let's pull up the Heretics front here.
Okay.
And so he's got these broke down into teams. I mean, no good trading card set from a theologian's point of view would be complete without Heretics, and so we have that right here.
But it does,
and I love the name on this. Yeah. Orthodoxy Dodgers. And so what you'll see here, you can see the front of this card that it lists the heretics that they have put in this collection. We're just showing you the front. There's a back. It goes on.
We have a heretic. We can
and so so pull up the Pelagius card there.
Hold on just a second.
The front
there
of Pelagius. There we are.
Pelagius was a.
He was.
Yeah.
Man, you used one of his sermons just the other day, Heath. What?
Heath wishes that he had known that before this podcast.
Before last Sunday, man. No, you were gone last Sunday. He's the guy that filled the pulpit.
Yeah. So now, here's my question. Okay.
All right, what's your question?
Because they do have, these different categories there. You see, well, here's one. We were talking about this. How do we Serampore preachers? And it's like I've got Augustine.
Oh, we're taking your theologian
we
card
got
from
Boniface and I'm thinking the Cambridge Seven, one of the best 3-on-3 teams in history. We have no idea what that word means. We looked it up. It has no dictionary meaning. So if you're in the chat room, if you can tell us what Serampore preachers are.
Hey, pull up the John Wesley card, the front of that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so you have a whole section here with preachers. Well, they have put John Wesley in there, and so when they can, they have a picture, drawing, or painting. Some of these are blank in the front because there's no known drawing. Go ahead and show the back of that card as well.
Just a second here. Let me
and so on the backs of these cards, then, there is just information about the theologian.
It's their statistics. It's like what you would expect on a good trading card.
There you go, yeah. And so you get a biographical and then just the significance of these. Now, one of the things, in all seriousness, is these cards really are cool in terms of quick and dirty. I mean, okay, who is this person? What are they known for in the light of church history in a theological realm as well?
Yeah.
So they're like, if you're a pastor, they'd be a fun conversation piece or something to have in your office. But they may actually come in handy when it comes to some, like if you're a student, church history and things like that. Like literally, these could be flashcards.
The creator of these, Norman June, also, and some of the suggested uses are these. They're for teaching and in the church for kids. Kids love to just have things to trade. Right. This might be a great way to.
And it has all the way up to current, people. I've got. Let's see, you got the Billy Graham card.
I've heard of him.
And his card is the Los Angeles Knights. So you got D.L. Moody. He's a member of the Los Angeles Knights. So I mean, for your fantasy preaching league, the great cheat sheet to help you get the best.
Yeah, talk about the pre-show. You're talking about. So Heath is going to put together a church staff here.
All right,
with these cards.
You get your cards, and you're like, okay, the dream team of church staff.
Here we go.
So Billy Graham is your outreach minister. D.L. Moody, Sunday school superintendent. Who else do we have here? St. Patrick, youth pastor for sure.
Okay, real quick. Wesley, what's he going to do? What's he going to do on your dream team? What's he in charge of?
Oh, he's in charge of small groups. Bonhoeffer, minister of social justice.
I love that.
Martin Luther, he's kind of the next gen pastor, hangs out in the pub with everybody.
Like collegiate minister.
Hangs out at the pub.
Who else do we have? George Whitfield, he's on the preaching team. Charles Wesley, worship leader.
I love it.
And then I got down to, I had Arminius, Jacob Arminius, John Calvin, and I just didn't know what to do with them.
Executive pastors, or
would Calvin be a good? I think Calvin would probably be a good executive pastor. I mean, it's probably meant to be.
Some big churches have that, and then they have the preaching pastor, the teaching pastor, and then the person who just kind of keeps the theology in line. Put Arminius and Calvin, as co-pastors.
But I mean, it's just.
I love it.
I have no idea who this guy is. Harold Okinga.
Well, listen, they have a bio on the back. You can learn about him. Hey, pull up from
He's
Matthew.
From Westminster. I don't think it's
not South Carolina. Pull up the Niebuhr, the front of Niebuhr's card.
Here it is.
So he's already alluded to this. There is a lot of diversity with these, and so not only do you have centuries old people that are brought up on this, but if you were you went through your religion major or you studied at all theology in the last century, the whole neo-orthodoxy movement and the Niebuhr brothers, well, both of them are in there, and this is just a great example of that. And you can see that the whole collection here are the Jerusalem resources. Again, Norman has broke these down into teams as well. So Really interesting. When we first heard about these, actually, Dr. Roger McKenzie was in studio.
Yeah.
Oh, there. It's a great shot, Matthew. So you can see others that are on the Jerusalem resources. And Resourcers, excuse me.
Yeah.
Karl Barth, you wouldn't be surprised to see that. Emo Brunner. I mean, some of those jump out at me. Other names not as familiar, as I said before.
But then they do kind of pick that curiosity, like, who are these people to further your, to say, oh, here's
Jürgen
this
Moltmann, oh my word. Jürgen Moltmann and the stuff that he wrote. I mean, these are some big hitters here. So, and again, our whole purpose of just featuring these today is Emily Varner is my contact at Zondervan, and they're gonna give away 3 sets of these.
We're gonna let it run for a few weeks on this one, about a month.
Yeah, June 25th is when we'll be doing the giveaway.
Yeah.
So very excited. I mean, this, I'm telling you,
This is from a collector's point of view. These are great.
Yeah, this, I'm thinking as a father with a son that, I do, Drake is almost at that age. We're going to start buying the baseball set, the basketball set, the football set of cards yearly and talk about that. But I mean, just for kids, just to say, who are these people and to help them learn about.
Do you remember they had
history.
These in Sunday school? They were Bible story.
Yeah, those were great, man. Wesley and
Publishing
House. I don't know if Wesley and Publishing
House. Man, I wanted those things. There's actually a full set in. Yeah, I saw one. Whoa, yeah. Here we go.
Hey, here we are. This Bible card. This is back from the late 1800s, and this was like what the Wesleyan Church released just about 20 years ago, or 15 years ago. Yeah. But this is what the Wesleyan Church did back in the 1800s. Yeah. So, I mean, this
idea's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, like those Bible story cards, I wanted to collect those things. I remember at one point trying to save up my allowance money, but they were so stinking expensive.
I bid on an eBay in England. With the packed pouches of tobacco, they would put cards in there, and it was Heroes of England. And one of the tobacco, it was a card with the tobacco, was a John Wesley card, and I got outbid for it on eBay. But I was this is from, I want to say, maybe 20th century, but these are just so cool. I mean, they're so diverse. There's such a diversity of people on here, and like I said,
when will the giveaway be set up?
Sometime today. I'll have it at the end of the show.
So I want you to notice, now this card here, this was the Passion, and so while other people didn't have pictures of it, we were able to find a picture
That's
of it
right.
in the 1800s.
That's right. Now, there are now, here's what's really cool is in this deck of cards, they have cards like this, which are blank. And so this
if you want to add to the heresy,
well, right?
The Orthodox Dodgers.
We'll print Heath's picture. And
That's right.
The Orthodoxy Dodgers, yeah.
But there's a lot of people. Let me try to
we
find
need a category.
one.
We see as Wesleyans, we need to create with those a category of women of the faith.
I mean, there's some people.
See.
There's some. I saw a couple of women in here. Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough.
So we will have the one and only Joanne Lyon rookie card.
Hey, yeah, that's a great idea.
I want you to do a hand sketch drawing of Joanne on there.
Oh, good gravy. She might end up with a mustache if I draw her. That would be bad.
All right. Well, again, sometime today we'll have that set up. We're going to let that run for about a month. And go
ahead. Sorry.
No, just a big time thanks to Zondra.
Absolutely.
Very gracious.
And I would love to hear from other people. What's your, if you're going through your playing cards, what's your dream team? What's your dream staff team? Not including us. I know you'd all put us on there, whatever. But I think that's cool.
Yeah, I like the way you put together your church.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll be curious to know what people would do that.
All right, let's move on to
what?
Download
of the week.
All right, so we haven't had a download of the week for probably about 4 weeks now because
been busy.
Yeah, it's one of the easy things to cut. So, our download of the week is MyFitnessPal. Now, there are lots of apps out there that will track exercise and your diet.
Whoa, sorry, wrong button.
And so I did something for about 3 weeks. I needed to keep a food journal and track it, so I used this app to do it. And now I'm still using it. And so It does a number of things. It's a calorie counter. It will integrate. Let me go back one here. Excuse me. I use iRunner or DigiFit, which is all the same. And so when you do an exercise, it will actually sync with MyFitnessPal. So as soon as you hit the sync button, it throws that over. You know how many calories you burned, your distance, and stuff like that. It takes it right off of MyFitness. Come over here. Try again, please. And for those who have seen some of these things, you have your home screen. It talks about, you can see what your daily nutrition is that you brought in. If you want to look at it from a weekly perspective, I'm going to go back to last week there. Now you see a whole week there. So
Tony, you need to eat a little bit more.
I do just fine. And let's see here. Let me come back. If you wanted to add something, one of the features I love on this is here's add, and let's say we're adding something for lunch. I forgot to bring something with a barcode in here. Oh, here we are. So let's say I was eating my trusty payday bar here. I can hit this, and then let's see. I have it upside down, and so that may. Oh no, I don't.
No, you don't. It's just how good this app is.
It's awesome, as you can see.
So while you're failing to demonstrate there with that, let me say that in these guys, the standard de facto first one of this kind of app that was around was an app called Lose It, okay. And it was more for dieting but it did this kind of tracking. And as I look at what this does, I knew you were going to be talking about this. As I look at what this does, perhaps because I was more familiar with it and I used it consistently, I far preferred that. There was ways to enter exercises into it as well. Yeah. But I would definitely ask that you compare them side by side and see what as you work through this. They've been around. I mean, they were one of the first apps to hit the iPhone, and there's this whole community of people.
Sure.
Like, they track how many pounds people have lost using that app. Very interesting.
Yeah, and this has, if you want to invite people, if you're trying to lose weight together, exercise together.
Is this cross-platform?
It is,
okay.
Yeah. Android and iOS. I can't speak for anything beyond that. Also, as you might imagine, any commercial restaurant is going to have, you could put Taco Bell Burrito Supreme, and it would have it. Any sandwich at Subway.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Lose It. It's cross-platform as well.
So it's not hard to track your calories. Now, I'll tell you the bummer, and I told Matthew this last week. So there's 3 weeks I had to track my food. Now I'm aware of stupid stuff called calories. And so like we got these candy bars here from Celebrate. And last week I went to eat one of these. Yeah. It was like, oh my word, I could have a whole lunch.
Oh,
it's crazy.
When you get serious about calorie tracking, it's nuts.
Yeah. So what app do you like?
Lose It.
Lose It.
Yeah.
We'll link both of them to the show notes.
Okay.
I mean, I really love this. Nicole, my daughter, uses this, and she has it synced too with DigiFit, so that you
It's all about the time that it's been around. I have the app here, but it's not hooked up to the computer for everybody to see. But interface-wise and everything similar.
Okay.
But in my observation, I like it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can track. I mean, I might like the other two. I just never used it. You can track weight loss, as you can imagine, and it even has more there. And I don't even know what all more is. Okay. I know that I used that one time. That was to sync up my exercise app. So that is our download of the week.
Yay.
Now it's time for They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
My mother's feminist principles colored every aspect of my life. As a little girl, I wasn't even allowed to play with dolls or stuffed toys in case they brought out a maternal instinct. It was drummed into me that being a mother, raising children, and running a home were a form of slavery. Having a career, traveling the world, and being independent were what really mattered, according to her. Rebecca Walker, daughter of the famed feminist and author Alice Walker, who is probably best known for her book, The Color Purple. Source, Mail Online.
The approximate 1,400 voting members of the Boy Scouts of America's National Council approved a resolution to remove the restriction denying membership to youth on the basis of sexual orientation alone. The resolution also reinforces that Scouting is a youth program, and any sexual conduct, whether heterosexual or homosexual, by youth of Scouting age is contrary to the values of Scouting. A change to the current membership policy for adult leaders was not under consideration. Thus, the policy for adults remains in place. The official release statement of the Boy Scouts of America after it lifted its ban on openly gay scouts. Source, Christianity Today.
As soon as you do the advertising, people are like, yeah, I want that. When I got married, I was worried. I didn't want any religious references in my wedding because I didn't want to start out the most important relationship of my life with a lie. Jennifer Hancock, Florida humanist writer and blogger, who is concerned with a secular approach to marriage. Source, USA Today.
The danger with lucid lectures is that they create the illusion of teaching for teachers and the illusion of learning for learners. Sitting passively and taking notes is just not a way of learning, yet lectures are 99% of how we teach. Eric Mazur, a professor and pioneer for a learning model that advocates directed conversation in the classroom between students, debate, dialogue, and active listening, and he sees higher levels of success and engagement as a result. Source, Hermeneutics. All right, so Heath, you sent me this one here from Rebecca Walker. Fascinating, fascinating article.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Just amazing the influence her mother had on her and how she went 180 degrees completely away from her mother's thinking and beliefs of womanhood.
Really. Well, I didn't even know. So, and this showed my ignorance. I didn't know anything about the author of The Color Purple or anything like that. I didn't know that she was a feminist. As you read this article, you're a little taken back at how dogmatic her mom was about this. And one of the things that strikes me is we always look at conservatives and we talk about legalism. Mm-hmm. But legalism exists in liberal settings. It exists in conservative settings. And I would describe what she was raised under as legalism.
Yeah.
And also it's fascinating here as she talks about raising her own children and the joy that has brought to her a sense of fulfillment. She has one son. She's trying to have another child. There is, between her and her mom, a little animosity, a little breakdown of the relationship.
Oh, yeah, just like her mother essentially disowns her, and she talks about how when she gets pregnant with her child and she calls to tell her and is like, Mom, I've never been happier, and her mom just basically is like, well, I'm kind of busy here, and so since 2004, so almost 9 years ago, she's had no contact with her mother, and she's heard that her mother's cut her out of her will for one of her cousins, but she talks about how she really feels like she missing something in her life.
Yep.
It's just a sad.
I remember when I came
not just sad.
Yeah, sad. When I came into the church in the late 70s, I had been exposed a lot to what I call radical feminism. So radical feminism kind of knit into a thinking across America at the time that I am my own person. I can be free. I don't have to answer to anyone. And you begin to see the fallacy of that if you have children.
Yeah.
You can't. As a matter of fact, that whole endeavor is a sacrificial endeavor. Your life is not your own. You have, by the miracle of birth, brought another human being into this life, and now there's responsibilities that are related to that. And so I see this article, there are two trails. One is that you have a daughter, an adult daughter now, who's struggling with the fact that she, in her mom's eyes, was a distraction.
Yeah.
And now she's experiencing her own maternal instincts and finding it to be absolute fulfillment. And so now she's wrestling against just the whole philosophy of it.
Yeah, let me read just the last paragraph, just a couple of sentences here. I hope that my mother and I will be reconciled one day. Tenzin deserves to have a grandmother, but I am just so relieved that my viewpoint is no longer so utterly colored by my mother's. I am my own woman, and I have discovered what really matters, a happy family. So you get this sense that with all this turmoil going on in her life, she has found this peace for her, and it's just a cool read.
It's an anecdotal story, but
not our typical story here on the Techology Show, but it just really caught my attention. And I've never seen The Color Purple, the movie. I don't know if anybody in the chat room didn't.
I haven't even seen the movie, but
didn't
Oprah Winfrey.
Didn't somebody win an Oscar for that?
Someone won something for it. All right.
Yeah.
With the decision of the Boy Scouts this week, the story that I link our listeners to is actually the Christianity Today story, because a couple of things I want you to pay attention to. Number one, look at the comments, the string of comments. Oh, my word. I mean, it is good fodder just to see where people are with this issue. Also, it's going to link you with other articles in Christianity Today. You have just denominations that have made official statements pulling out of scouting now as a result of this. One of the things that I watched with interest is if they would lift the ban on openly gay scout leaders. And they have not done that.
Yeah, I actually thought that they, I think they handled this in a really great way, actually. I'm surprised with the ruling that came down, and I think that it's particularly as they amend the ending of that saying. Now, as a reminder, we're not going to say you can't be a Boy Scout, you can't go through the program, but that is not what this is about. This is a thing for youth, and sex and sexual orientation doesn't even play a part in here. I thought it was a good
in some of the comments, like one lady made the comment, she said, well, how would you have felt if the ruling was that we are now allowing girls to cohabitate with the guys and bringing them into the scouting events? And of course, what the person who, her comments there are that if I, by my orientation, am attracted to the same sex, then isn't my being, into this organization, going on these camping, isn't this not the equivalent of being with people of the opposite sex? That's why I say that the comments, look at the comments that are attached to this article, and I think that's a real question. I mean, you can throw that in as a bomb, but I think it's a real question. In my mind, if they ever cave in on scout leaders who are openly gay,
that's going to be huge.
Then you're going to create, in my mind, a playground for those, for pedophiles.
Right. I definitely agree with that. I guess I was never in the Boy Scouts, never knew about. I knew there were Boy Scouts, but I had no idea how to get in the Boy Scouts, and probably didn't meet the height requirement or something like that. But this is just a kind of a, I'd be interested to look at the membership of the last couple of decades of how is Boy Scout, are the Boy Scouts as relevant as they used to be? And I've had kids become Eagle Scouts, and it's a great there's part of me that regrets not being a Boy Scout, because the accomplishment of the whole.
I started
Eagle
out in
Scout
Boy Scouts. It was a big deal when I was a kid growing up, and there were a lot of guys that were in scouting, but as I got older, I didn't keep up with it.
I helped my brother, dominate the Walker McElmole Pinewood Derby of 1980.
Dominate. What does dominate mean? You guys were the only ones entered into the race?
It was in the paper. That is somewhere in our house. It was in the paper, and that car. His winning car.
Uh-huh.
Well,
it's always in the paper. Every year they put that in the paper.
Congratulations there.
Yeah.
And you took that and made it all the way to a NASCAR race this past week. That's great,
right.
Man.
They're a lot faster than the Pinewood Derby.
All right. I have this article here out of hermeneutics concerning Eric Maggiore. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But this is a professor who says that our lecturing is not working, that we say it's learning, it's not. But where the author takes this article is, what does that then mean about preaching?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because preaching is built on a lecture model. Absolute silence, man.
No, I think Jesus was very much engaging. I mean, you think about this. We've created a preaching model. All right, I gotta be careful. We've created a preaching model where we've had to take children out of the service because it doesn't appeal to them. It doesn't. You can't have kids sitting there doing a 40-minute lecture. So this is something that I have really been wrestling with. Is really examining my preaching style, and how do you become? Because I think we're wasting a lot of people's time.
Within the Protestant movement, you have the Word of God, which takes center stage.
Right.
And so you have the whole service that's built around that. So that's a dynamic that flows into this. Also, in the educational department, just as a discipline, I would say this, that what we've gotten good at in this country, especially with No Child Left Behind, is that we have taught people how to take tests.
Yes.
And so I'll just take my daughter as an example here. Leading up to year-end testing, this has been this way for the last 4 years. She has practice tests. Mm-hmm. So there's no score, that's attached to the practice test.
Right.
But it's getting you ready for the end of the year test.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to teach someone how to take a test, to have the right answers on a test at the end of the day. There's a bigger question here. What has the child actually learned? And how do we judge, and how do we mark that? Well, it's through behavior, isn't it? And so again, we go back to the sermon. How do we know that people are learning from our sermons? What's the gauge of that? Hey, I'm getting a call.
Cool. Wonderful.
That's great.
One of the cool things in here that it mentions in the article, if you've ever heard of the Khan Academy, this guy who has done all these amazing videos online, just education.
He is, and I hear that he's about to take over like about a third of the world's population. There's plans to freeze him.
The show has been hijacked by Star Trek geeks.
Anyway, but how there is not like a Christian version of that, where it's just like a short video teaching. I'm actually working on a project that'll be like explaining spiritual disciplines in like a short, video segments. But I think we have got to examine our whole model of preaching, because I just don't.
So that's huge. When you say that's huge. So all three of us here are familiar with TED Talks. What's the longest TED Talk that you'll see?
Oh goodness, there's
15 to 20.
Yeah, there's
What?
15 to 20 minutes.
15.
But when you go in, they tell you. I mean, if you've never read Fiddlesticks.
I love Fiddlesticks. Yeah.
There's a book basically how to create a TED Talk.
Okay.
And it gives you kind of behind the scenes of the things that the TED people say, these are our requirements. And I've tried to apply a lot of those to our into my messages, and it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the book is How to Create a TED Talk, and it's cheap ebook.
Matthew
has a question.
Matthew has a hand up.
So I had a conversation with somebody in their early 30s this week who has been attending the church, and it was just a comment about previous places that they'd been. Not faithfully, but where they'd been. And they mentioned, and I won't mention by name, but they mentioned a church in our area that's a much more contemporary church. In their comment, they said, it wasn't right. It was, and this is somebody coming into the church now. This is somebody mostly unchurched coming into the church. It just wasn't right. Like, it was like a concert, and then the preacher got up, and he didn't even talk for 15 minutes. And I was like, what? Why am I here? Am I here for a concert? What am I here for? Which begs me to think in my mind, perhaps it's not the model that's completely what's broken, but the method by which we participate. it may not be at the fault of the presenter, but maybe this is more. Maybe we should be giving a little bit more responsibility to those who are participating in our worship services. It's on them to be engaged. Like, if you're doing this is a decision that you're making. And yes, that plays into us as leaders and how we build that in people. But I was blown away to hear that. I thought, oh wow, because like the contemporary model has become that. And what I've noticed is, like, some of the preachers that I love to listen to preach. Again, I guess I could name names, but like Timothy Keller goes 20 to 40 minutes. Mark Driscoll sometimes will go an hour and a half.
All right, so but do you remember anything they said?
Yes.
Okay.
Ashley and I had a conversation Sunday afternoon. We listened to it was a 45-minute long message by Tim Keller, and we were talking about it the next day. It came up again in conversation, saying, "Man, that just," Ashley's saying, "that just blew my mind when we got to that part." Actually, I'm sorry, it was 2 days later. Yes, you remember.
But I think, for me, as a preacher myself, I have a higher appreciation for preaching, especially good preaching.
I agree with that.
But Priscilla in the chat room has a excellent point that John Wesley wouldn't just go preach and leave. He would preach, and then he would set up all these classes to talk about what he had preached about.
So
Jesus did the same thing.
Right.
Jesus would teach, then he would pull his disciples like, what do y'all think about that?
I want to bring us back to what Mazur is doing. What he's incorporating in his classroom is conversation in the classroom between students, debate, dialogue, and active listening. And he says he's seeing higher success with learning among students. Now, we don't know what his metric is for learning. How does he then qualify that, quantify it? I don't know. I know that one of the things that I really have enjoyed, we've done it twice.
We're actually taking a year off this year because, again, it goes to this participation thing. But let's go ahead and talk about it, because I enjoyed it too, and I see growth in it.
I agree with you taking the year off from it, but Matthew did something called Flip-Flop Sundays, where you come in at 10 and it's the worship service, and then Sunday school at 11, and Sunday school is just conversation about, or teaching more in depth about what was just preached in the sanctuary.
And it's the first year was amazing. The second year, it's like, again, it goes to the heart of people to be committed to do that. So even if you change the model, there's something about the heart of the person who's sitting in the pew or sitting in the lecture room that has to be, like, its intention to be engaged. And the first year, man, people were, like, it was amazing to see some of the conversations that you were hearing from people because they're having to, after hearing that, they're having to think through it then. They're having to process that in their brain. And
I wonder...
Did a lot of people leave, though? Like, did people that were going to stay...
Some did. Some didn't. Some didn't stay for that. But what we actually had a great increase in overall.
Had a bump in our attendance.
Not everybody stayed for Sunday school, but our Sunday school grew at that point. And people got connected, and it was really, really good. It's interesting.
And I would say we have a couple families that got connected, that have stayed connected as a result of that. That is something it produced. You almost wonder, and you can't just be playing around with stuff, but you almost wonder if no Sunday school, if you're big enough to have small groups, that you just have the worship, and then your small group in the evening, like you're meeting in a house somewhere. So that evening, what you're doing is you're talking about what's being preached that morning.
That's what a lot of major churches are doing. So again, Mars Hill, Seattle. That's what it is. Like,
I said I didn't know that.
See, he'll drop a bomb. Like, he's like, okay, and there's two things about what might be happening here in Scripture. I'm going to present them both to you, and you can fight them out in small groups, and intentionally to create that discussion. That's what a small, honestly, that's what a small group
dialogue. I mean, that's what he's creating.
That's what a small group should be. I don't think a small group should be, let's have a group that's going to go through a book apart from that. Like, the intention of that should be to continue those conversations. Not to say it's not beneficial to have a social group that's studying, going through a book or whatever it is, or going through something that doesn't pertain. But like the model of those, again, as we talk about the model and John Wesley's model and this is what this should be.
The Mountain Lake Church in Cumming, Georgia, in their bulletin, it has the small group question. So you go to church on the weekends, and then Sunday night.
And
you
I
got
think
small
I think
group.
I think at Redeemer at Tim Keller's, I believe that's what their small groups do. That's the. It's like this thing that's been around, but that we're rediscovering, and we're like, whoa, this thing that they used to do hundreds of years ago or whatever, this actually works. This is incredible. Yeah, it works.
And it's not going to be magic. I mean, it's probably going to be as effective as your small group leader is and capable,
Right.
But
well, it is, and it's going to be as effective as you, the person. Let it be.
Yeah. The great thing about the sermon based is you don't have to have a teacher. You just have to have somebody roll the ball out there, and you take it.
I will say this: I brought up TED Talks because some of those, I mean,
they're just amazing.
They are, and what they give you in 20 minutes is astounding. And here's what I've
years of research from these people, years of research, years
of
their work.
Good point.
Boiled down to
good point. 20 minutes. Now that's true, and they're not having to reproduce that every week.
One of the most fascinating TED Talks I saw was David Blaine explaining how he how he held his breath. I can't remember how long he held his breath, but it was like over 10 minutes. Yeah. But he talked about the whole process of how he did that. It was fascinating.
I saw it when I thought it was stupid.
Well, that's because you don't believe in magic.
I will say this: if you use a multimedia, I mean, so I'm so influenced by Matthew on this, but Matthew started, I don't know, a few months ago, where now through his iPad he controls the PowerPoint, and it took me 2 or 3 weeks. I kept thinking to myself, boy, something is qualitatively different here. And then I realized it's because he was, through his iPad, controlling the presentation. And so I got to do this. Matthew got me set up. So he was gone a week ago, and I got to do that. And I love it. And because it takes out the middleman. You know exactly when you want to transition. And the software was flawless. So the setup we have, I'm sure all of that factors in. But I think that the 40, the 50-minute, if it's quality, if it's good, if it's presentable, I don't think that's a hindrance. The problem is this, that when someone is droning on for 40 minutes, people are going to check out. They just are.
Yeah.
Because their whole world, their whole media world is cut up in about 10, 15-minute segments where they can stop, they can pause, they can go do something.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What were you saying?
Like, I think, one of the most fun services we did is I did my first point, and then we did a worship song. It was all broken up. I did my second point, and all my points were like 8 minutes. And then we did a worship song, and we did a second point, and I really, really enjoyed that. I wanted to touch on the last story about
real quick.
marriage real quick. I actually had a friend on Facebook. Somebody wanted him to marry them, and so he got some sort of online marriage license. But that's basically what it is non-Christians wanting to be married by non-Christians that they don't.
But they want a beautiful ceremony like the churches have.
Right.
So it is, because in the past, the option's been go to the justice of the peace.
Right.
Or have this religious ceremony.
Yeah.
Well, we want the religious ceremony with the justice of the peace.
That's
Exactly what this article is about.
Yeah.
Fascinating read. We can't get into it, but go to that. It's a great read. And it raises questions about what underpins marriage. Is marriage just a social contract?
Yeah.
If it's not just a social contract and we find it as a creation mandate, what are the ramifications of that? All right. Heath, I'm just wondering where our listeners might find you on the internet.
Well, my social media fast is over, so I'm back online. Heath Mulligan. I'm actually going to be posting.
Well, that was fast.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be posting a video about the experience this afternoon at heathmulligan.com. But follow me on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Yeah. You can find me at MatthewTG.com. There's links to everything and everywhere that I am, just about, except for the mysterious and elusive, members only places.
All right, and you can find me at Twitter and Facebook at AKC64. I want to remind you that we're giving away Zondervan's giving away 3 sets of these. They're going to send it to you directly. So once you win, we'll just send them the address and you'll get it. We're going to let this run for about a month and have it set up by the end of the day. And so start entering.
No, there's no bubble gum with these.
Okay, well.
You have to get the packs at the stores. to get the bubble gum.
Thank you for that information. Hey, if you want further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, you can do that via email at thetechologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, call us up, call 3049-TEOLOGY. Leave us a message. We may even play your comments.
And if you want to send us money, I hear that Google Wallet now lets you email. If you have a Gmail account, you can just email us money.
Email
to
us.
thetechologyshow@gmail.com.
Email us money. That would be great. Yeah. We might even share it with Heath. You never know. All right.
They don't share.
As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Adios.
Now there's when the screensaver kicks in, so it's the same old.
What is that? What is that screensaver?
I have no idea.
Interesting.
My antique Kindle. 5 years old.